Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited for today's video. I'm going to be ranking 9 new to me palettes that I have accumulated in my collection over the course of the last couple of months. I have the new Natasha Denona Mini Crush, the new Urban Decay Wild Greens, Huda Beauty Rose Quartz, Natasha Denona Mini Vipa. We've got 9 palettes to rank for you guys today, all the way from my least favorite to my favorite. So if you're interested in seeing how I would rank these palettes, stay tuned. First, if you have yet to subscribe to my channel and you like project panning content, palette themed content, or just chit chatting about makeup, I would love if you'd consider subscribing before moving on. And other than that, let's jump into the video. All right, you guys, like I said in the introduction, I have 9 palettes to rank for you guys today. The 2 bottom palettes are like really disappointing, maybe 3 even, really disappointing in my opinion, but I had trouble ranking the top 6 because I really enjoyed the 6 palettes that I will be ranking at the top. If you guys like palette themed content, I'll leave my palette playlist linked down below. I do tons of palette themed content on this channel, but let's jump into my least favorite palette that I've been trying the last few months. So my least favorite I have to give to the new Natasha Denona Mini Crush palette. I was so excited when I saw this palette launching. I did not realize that all 5 shades I think are repeat shades. Some of them might be named differently, but I believe that they're repeated throughout her other palettes. The only shade, I can see myself reaching into this palette for these 2 shades and these 2 shades alone, but aside from that, I just was not impressed with this palette. This shade right here, this like shimmery red shade, I do like. I just don't reach for shades all that often, but I did not really love the quality of the darkest matte in this, and this just is not... It's one of the Natasha Denona mini palettes that I feel like is lacking quality. I feel like the majority of her mini palettes, especially the ones that she's released over the course of the last couple years, I feel like have been really good quality, but I was a little bit disappointed in this one. I only used the brush that this palette came with one time, so I don't really have any sort of opinion on that brush. Color story wise, currently I'm over pinks just because I've been doing so many pink looks, so that could play into it a little bit, but there's other pink color stories throughout my collection that I prefer over this palette, and I just don't see myself getting a ton of use out of this one, so I had to rank this one in the last spot. Coming in the 8th spot, I have the Urban Decay Wild Greens palette, and I was so excited for this palette as well, and I was so disappointed in this one. So I've used this one I think 5 times and like created like looks specifically using this palette, not just reaching into it for like one shade. I will say the mattes are like have a lot of fallout, but I feel like you can't really build the mattes up that well. This shade right here, Lo-Fi, I feel like I get like no pigment from, which is super disappointing. I will say for the most part, like the shimmers are decent quality. Like the shimmers are why I'll keep this palette around, but the mattes I just was not impressed with. I felt like they were dry and chalky, but had a lot of like kick up / fallout. And I was just super disappointed in this one because I was so excited when I saw this release. I think this is the first palette I purchased in 2022. And what a letdown it was. Coming in at number 7, this is, I like this palette and I know I'll get a lot of use out of it, but it's like a bit of a letdown, and we'll get into why. I picked this one up towards the end of 2021. This is the Artist Couture Supreme Nudes The Quickie. And I didn't realize there are at least 3, if not 4, repeat shades from this palette to the Supreme Nudes palette. Whoopsies, I'm sure that's my fault, but that's the reason I'm ranking this one just a little bit lower, because I have the Supreme Nudes, and I will likely just, like if I was traveling and picking this over the Supreme Nudes, I honestly would probably just pick the Supreme Nudes. Now for something super quick, very compact and easy to like travel with or bring with you, I do think this is really nice. I feel like there is a huge purpose for this, but like I feel like there's a market for this palette. It's nice, it's 8 pans, you don't have to think about it. I know I'll get a ton of use out of it. There is quite a bit of kick up in the mattes in this formula as well, but it builds beautifully and they blend nicely. The reason I'm ranking this lowest mostly is just because many of these shades are repeated in a palette that I already had. So my mistake, but this would be my number 7. Okay, here on up, I really do like all of these palettes, and I really did struggle to rank all 6 of these, but But coming in at number 6, I have this one from M Cosmetics, and this is the majority of what is on my eyes today. This is the Divine Skies eyeshadow palette, and this is what this looks like. I know it's unique packaging in that it's like a hexagon shape, but I actually do quite like the packaging of this. This is another one I feel like is really easy to just toss in a travel bag, and I love the color story of this one. Here it is right here. I will say I was most excited for this shade right here, and it's a little bit drier than I would prefer, but this shade right here I absolutely love. The mattes in here are so easy to blend. They blend so nicely together. I really have enjoyed this palette. I'm very interested in her newest release. I forget what the collection was called, but there's like some neutral, there's I think 2 neutral palettes that released with it. Definitely have my eye on them. Don't need them, but I definitely have my eye on them. So my number 6 has to go to the M Cosmetics Divine Skies. If you like this color story, I think you would be really happy with the quality in this palette. Coming in at number 5, I picked this one up during the Sephora Vieve sale in the fall time, fall/winter. It's the Lawless, the Glam 1 eyeshadow palette. It's another 8-pan palette. Looks like this. Can you guys tell there's a bit of a theme with the color story? So I really enjoyed the Lawless, the baby 1 eyeshadow palette. I did not enjoy the 1 palette from Lawless, but I loved the baby one. So I had to get this one. I loved the color story, and I think that this is really nice quality. The shadows are also, there's a lot of kick up with these shadows, but I don't mind that. And the shimmers, Lawless shimmers, like knock it out of the park. They are so foiled and so intense and so beautiful. I could see myself honestly just reaching in to this palette for these 2 shades, but I also really enjoy these 2 shades right here. If I want a mauve toned smoky eye, I can get that from here. If I want a brown toned smoky eye, I can get that from this palette. Those are like my 2 favorite go-to looks. So this palette's color story right on my alley. I've been loving a good like 8 or 9 pan palette. So like the size, the shimmers, love it. You can't go wrong. $25 I don't think is a bad price. If you've had your eye on this one, I really have enjoyed this. Coming in at number 4, I have this one from Vieve Cosmetics. This is the Muse palette, and this is what this one looks like. Another mauve toned color story. First of all, this palette is actually huge. I was very surprised at the size of this. Love the quality in this. Again, the mattes have a bit of kick up. Like you can see there's quite a bit of disruptance on some of these matte shades, but they still blend really beautifully together. I love the color story. I really love the shimmers. The shade Divine I think is such a beautiful like icy champagne shade. And then I also really like the shade Regal, but in general, I really like the mattes, really like the shimmers, like the color story. If this palette was even like smaller, I wouldn't have been mad, but definitely now interested in other the other Vieve eyeshadow palette. I forget what that one's called. It's like the neutral brown palette. Like I feel like next time I place an order on Cult Beauty, I need that. Love this one from Vieve. Coming in at number 3, I have another Natasha Denona mini, and this is the mini vipa palette. This is awesome. I absolutely love this palette. I feel like this and my mini nude from Natasha Denona are going to be competing for attention. The first time I did a look with this eyeshadow palette, I was like, I don't know if I like this, but then I filmed a video that day and I was editing and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm obsessed with my eye look, and I just can see myself getting so much use out of this. I love the color story, like these 3 shades right here, like yes. And then if like spring summertime when I'm wanting a little bit more like of a peachy, like a little addition of like a peach pop, this matte, everything performs super nicely. This is the really good Natasha Denona mini quality. If this is a color story that speaks to you, I highly recommend picking this one up. Coming in at number 2, I have the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette. I also picked this one up during the Sephora Vieve sale. This one is absolutely gorgeous. I am obsessed with this palette. This and the Mercury Retrograde palette, I feel like now are going to be competing as my tippity top Huda palettes. Like I love both of them. The special shades in this palette, or like the textured shades, the just different finishes of the foils are like hold on. This shade right here, Blissful. Like I literally just like die over shades like this. Like oh my goodness, I just think that is so pretty. Also this one right here, Moon Magic, like I just cannot. I will say I do recommend, like oh my goodness, those are like indie single shadows, you know, like it's that type of quality. I like, oh my gosh, I can't stop staring. I will say these shadows perform best with a glitter glue, otherwise you will get fallout. I do recommend using a glitter glue, eyeshadow primer, what have you with this. I think that the mattes in here perform really nicely. I know some of Huda's earlier palettes that were this size, I feel like, well, in general, I feel like Huda Beauty eyeshadows can be hit or miss in the quality, but I have had really good luck with the quality in this palette. I love the color story, love the palette. So pretty, so beautiful. I know it's expensive, but if you're feeling like treating yourself and you love the color story and like shades like this make you drool, I highly recommend this one. All right, you guys, and then my Tippity Top palette. I knew I was gonna like this one, but I didn't know I was gonna like this one this much. It is my Patrick Ta. Mine's super messy, ignore that. It's kind of embarrassing. Patrick Ta, it's still messy. Major Dimension eyeshadow palette. I love this. First of all, color story, just like my perfect color story. I love a good sultry brown smoky eye, but the real reason I think I like love this is for the cream shadows. And I remember a couple weeks ago I was like, okay, I need to try these cream shadows out, but they're deeper. I don't know how I'm going to use this. Like, I don't feel like I needed these shades in this. And then I had already like set my eyeshadow primer down as well with a powder. And I was like, this probably is just going to be a disaster, but I'm still going to try it. And I just went in with like a fluffy brush in this shade as a one shadow and done look in the crease. Magnifique. Like, and then I went and did that like 4 days in a row. Literally every day that I worked, literally every single day that I was just doing like a very quick look, I was like, oh, I'm just going to pop this cream shadow and we're going to be good. I absolutely love this. I know it's very expensive, but this, if this is your color story and this is your jam, you will love this. There are like the foiled like shimmers, like this top row has a lot of different texture in it, a little bit chunkier, some of them. I do prefer, again, I pretty much always use a glitter glue, but I do recommend using a glitter glue, but I still think like because it's like a chunkier texture, it just gives such a beautiful effect to the lids. And I just think this is such a good palette. I'm a little bit mad at myself, like I'm kicking myself a little bit for waiting so long to pick this up, but regardless, I'm just happy to have this in my collection at the moment. And after that, that is going to wrap it up for my ranking of all the new palettes to me in my collection. I do have a couple of other palettes that I'm still currently working my way through testing and reviewing. And I have the Odin's Eye Angelica collection or collab coming my way too. So I anticipate in a month's time or so, there'll be another ranking new eyeshadow palette video. So keep an eye out for that. Again, if you enjoy palette themed content, I'll leave my palette playlist linked down below. But that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to watch and for supporting me as you guys always do. I love you guys so much, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye.